you for sacrificing your beautiful morning or afternoon, and hopefully will be light and easy and delightful. I'd like to comment on the word everyone. Yes, for sure, but it's up to the governments to start such horizontal models. But what is a knowledge-based economy? It is one that is focused on the production and management of knowledge, where knowledge is a product, using knowledge technologies where knowledge is a tool. But why is it important? Well, it generates economic growth and job creation. OECD countries' GDPs are more than 50% coming from knowledge. For example, the Netherlands. It was known to be a very strong industrial country. Its impressive input of services into the economic development has put it on an equal footing with manufacturing. Let's first define the types of information or knowledge. There's the explicit knowledge. It's a knowledge that is easy to articulate, write down, and share, like a research paper. Then you have the implicit knowledge, which are the skills that are transferable from one job to another. Example, how to perform a certain task. And then there's the tacit knowledge, knowledge that is gained from personal experience that is more difficult to express, like interpreting a complex statistical equation. So the mobilizing factors are the government policies, namely accessibility of information, ICT infrastructure, and education, and most importantly, a sound socioeconomic regime. But let me just draw a picture so that the listeners can appreciate more what are we exactly talking about. Mm-hmm. There was a country that was importing electricity from another country through natural gas that comes at 40 bar, and then it's 70 bar, and then it's reduced to 40 and 30 bar before it goes into 7 bar into the pipes. Now, this electricity company in that country didn't have the expertise and the know-how to maintain the station, and it's dangerous. So they made a contract with Germany for $1 million annually over several years so that Germany will maintain the system because Germany had the knowledge. What I did is that I communicated with the Netherlands. There's a very famous program, which is non-for-profit. It's called PUM, P-U-M. You can find it online. It's free senior expertise from the Netherlands. And I found just the perfect person who came over to that country, help them and show them how to maintain this station, and they released the contract. So Germany was cashing 1 million the company in Germany was cashing $1 million a year just from one account, and the other country was able to save 1 million when it gained the knowledge. My famous example is spending the world on education, meaning we spend a lot of money on education. And we create fully enabled students, and then we pump them into an environment that is more filled with inhibitors than enablers, leading to a total loss on the investment return. So what are the enablers? Based on the World Bank Knowledge Economy model and knowledge transfer channels, FDI, education, RDI, research, development, and innovation, these are strong enablers. Inhibitors are the gaps of the socioeconomic regime, education, innovation, and ICT infrastructure. Let's put it simply in simple language. Let's suppose a student graduated with a marvelous idea for a new project. He needs supportive policies and procedures regarding ease of opening a new business, IP rights, and good ICT-based justice body. Let's take another example. A 10-year-old boy created an online game and instantly gained $1 million in his account. Do you book him for money laundering or tax him or protect him or protect his rights? So we have to be ready for these things. Well, the government puts a sound supportive policy, but it's up to the entrepreneur to understand what policies to ask for in case the government did not do its job or did not do it right. So I think that's what's important. OECD countries are reliant on knowledge-based economies. And they are the most powerful and they are the richest. So we have a real good example right before our eyes. What does it take? A horizontal knowledge economy model before applying vertical model of the SDGs. And I specifically say horizontal because I I look at SDGs, as good as they are, as silos, vertical silos. They're great, but they are separated. Each one talks about a different sector. But a horizontal knowledge based economy is what I really seek as the basis for SDGs or anything else. Perhaps it's time to explain the World Bank's knowledge economy model. Not that it's the only one, but it's a reliable one, which is certainly, once again, not the only one. So, how do you build this model? Let's make it simple. Let's think we are going to build a tabletop. It is flat on the floor, and we want to build four legs to evenly lift it up. What are the four legs that we need? So, we want to build four legs so that this table can rise up and become a knowledge based economy model. Why? Because we get economic growth and job creation and better livelihood. The first one is a socio-economic regime. Simply said, it's everything the government does, from the transport to the health to the environment sector, the ministries, the different bodies that belong to the government. But they are all sharing one platform that is flooded with transparency, accountability, rule of law, accessibility to information, etc. So this is our sturdy socio-economic regime. And then the World Bank found out that the second leg is education. Education is an extremely powerful knowledge economy transfer channel, but it takes a longer time to materialize the benefits. The third is innovation. And here we talk about research, development, science, and all that it encompasses. And what we mean by innovation is something that is not restricted within the walls of a university and not an experiment. It's a cross cutting system so that any innovator at any given time knows that there's a place to go with the innovations that can be commercialized and nationalized to the interest of that person and the government. Then comes the ICT infrastructure. A good way to start is a gap analysis. Anybody can look at these four things, and make a simple gap analysis and derive at what the country needs. I have a paper that was commissioned by the World Bank and the EIB. It's online. If you search my name and if you search academia.edu, you'll find a complete paper on knowledge based economy. If you allow me, I'd like to go one step backwards and say something. And to be honest with you, my first and foremost passion is education as a tool for world peace and prosperity. I do believe it's all about rearing a healthy, enlightened, ethical, and hardworking new generation to make a better world and fight all the ailments our generation is leaving behind, like global warming and corruption. This can only be done through education. But I discovered that the Arab countries are spending by far more than any nation in the world on education, yet results are wanting for lack of supporting overarching national policies with enablers. So I started to connect the importance of the knowledge based economy policy as a booster for ICT based education outputs, and hence my interest in that model. Then, of course, there is economic growth and job creation, which are warranted and wanted. Who doesn't want them? So, the essence of the matter, whatever that you want to do in your country, be it invent something or educate your people or making a better a greener, green friendly place, you need to have the supportive, overarching policy. Otherwise, you will have more inhibitors standing in your way on whatever you want to do. If you educate, release, and support students, they are apt to innovate and create solutions for a better world. Let me say something. I was lucky and fortunate enough to be a CEO of a global initiative called World Links. We train more than 4 million students around the world. We're older generation, and you'll be surprised. We taught them how to use the technology, and then we took one step backwards. The technology in their hands created what amazed us. Not in our wildest dreams would we have thought that this technology in their hands would have been used in this way. So, what I'm trying to say is that we should pass on the know how to, not the know how per se, but the technology, the tools, and open the doors for the and the generations, and then release them, they will amaze us. They will start creating solutions for all the problems we made. They will start making artificial limbs, biometrics, and advanced technologies that we never dreamt of. And that is what matters. The next generation are going to innovate and create with our support if we truly give them the basics. You know that in Jordan we have more than 2 million refugees, one quarter of the population. Think of those who missed 7 years of education. So what we're talking about is basic education for some countries and advanced ones in others. But needless to say, every child deserves a good education. And when I say education, it's not about just the textbook. It's about ethics, about healthy eating, about how to communicate, all the skills of the future, so that we truly put them on the right path and then step back and wait to see what they will do. Let's jump straight to the idea and give you an example from England, even though I might not mention the name, maybe because I haven't taken permission. There's a beautiful company in Surrey, in England. In, and what happens is that they're at home, they probably have one laptop and one mobile, and they had an idea. And they say, why not issue a card a traveler can carry anywhere in the world? There are airports and delayed flights. If that passenger, uh, for example, has a delayed flight or a late flight, they can enjoy the VIP lounge without necessarily having to have booked a first class or a business class ticket. And so they sold this card for $90 a year, and it would, for a mere 20 US dollars, it would get you in any airport in the world. I, for one, as a frequent traveler, immediately bought this card and have been renewing my membership for more than 10 years, uh, which means that this company, almost overnight, is gaining more than 2 million US dollars. And it's just an idea. They sell you a card, a service, and you carry it around. If you need to go to a lounge, they swipe it, they take the money. Now, mind you, I calculated the money that I spent outside the lounge from the normal markets, waiting for my plane, and from inside. And believe you me, it is much more comfortable and less expensive. So that is one idea. So going back to the ICT, it's a new language, and every day there's a new song. Sky is the limit. ICT is a double-edged sword, though. There is cyber crime, to say the least. So what is a good idea? Well, you can set your own criteria. It has to be profitable. It has to benefit others. It contributes to economic growth and job creation on the national level. And then, if you want to venture more deeply, you will study the different channels and understand, for example, FDI. If you are in a poor country and you want to change your fortune overnight, go for FDI. FDI is one of the strongest and fastest channels that you can opt for to boost your economy. Yes, absolutely. Once again, the ball is in their court. What makes a good idea has to come from the people, not from me, because they are. If I am creative, they are 100 times more creative than I am. They're a new generation, young people. They see things differently than I do. And they know what is best more than I do. That is exactly what I said. We have to step back and not pretend to know everything. Put the technology in their hands and step back and see what they can innovate. I can tell you of good ideas I've seen others younger people do. For example, there was one lady in East Asia who was determined to bring electricity to her village. And it was unheard of for a woman to do anything, let alone bring electricity into a village who was never destined to have such a thing. And she did it. So once again, a good idea is based on what the new generation think it is,
Hmm.
and they are the ones who decide. But we can always put criteria. A good idea is one that gets you money, that makes you live a good, healthy, wealthy life. A good idea can bring some benefit to people, or can create further ideas and further businesses built on it. For example, Facebook built a platform, but so many apps now are making money out of Facebook. And that is why we have to become modest and not pretend to know what a good idea is and leave it up to the people and the young generation to come up with those new ideas. We're going to be spectators, but not before we do our duties. And we really not only avail the funds for the educational ministries, but to spend it well, spend it right. Half the money spent well will do a world a lot of good. And to be honest with you, I'm an advocate for peace. I really believe if we take care of the children, clean their minds and hearts, we will truly have a better world and a peaceful one. Social media represents people and communities, which encompasses the good, the bad, and the ugly, so to speak. So the essence of the matter goes back to teaching children and students on how to safely and optimally use technology, the internet, and the social media. One example, ethics of conversation and debate. I see a lot of unethical online manifestations of people who never heard of rights of others or the polite way to express their opinions. Now, once we go over that and we really focus on what is good for us, oh my God, there's a world of good in the social media. You gain so much knowledge. Like just the other day, there was a job going around in a certain sector, and it was amazing how everybody picked it up and passed it on to everybody in that sector. It was so beautiful, like people's hearts are involved and they want to help each other. And then I'm an animal lover and I advocate for animals wherever I am. And it's amazing how many animals are adopted via social media and how many success stories warm your heart. There is once again a world of good that can be done once we overcome the obstacles of adversely using or being affected by the internet at large and the social media in particular. As an educator, I participated and partly created what we called a blended learning uh, pedagogy. This is an instructional material that looks at everything that is new on the internet and introduces it to students. So whatever it is, for example, social media is the in thing, the Facebook, the Twitter, this has to all be covered with the students. Now, if you go outside the educational system into the real world and the internet streets, well, this differs. Some people can learn from their mistakes online indirectly, and some of them can do that through other courses and training material. But in that case, definitely the social media raises awareness on how things should be done. You find a lot of advocates. For example, one smart aleck could say something, and then there are hordes of people who are coming against him and showing him the error of his ways. This is educating, if not to him, to others. So in a way, there is self-learning online. But my favorite is the educational system wide, not only because the investment return is the largest, but because educational system have the bulk of the people. Think of the MENA region who's going to top 700 million in 2050, and more than half of them are going to be children. If you go through educational systems, you properly rear them up on ethical behavior, that will cut short a lot of trouble later on. So, yes, you can do it online through social media. Some people take the leadership and try to guide others. Some are followers. Some are mischievous people online who just are there to raise havoc and trouble and don't know any better. So,
Mm.
but I believe in educational systems. And remember, when I say education, it's not just K to 12. You still have the higher education, the vocational training, and the online lifelong learning, which takes place everywhere, anytime, online. Now you have the OER. It's very powerful. Open education resources. This means that any person on earth can log on to MIT, which is one of the leading universities in the world, and actually study every single word that is being taught in that university because they have gone completely OER online. So online learning is good. So there comes a time when education becomes everywhere, inside and outside the walls of schools and educational institutions. Sad thing is that people think technology in its fancy form is enough. But as an educator, I know that there has been misconceptions. For example, you have to start with ICT literacy, followed by e-readiness for e-learning, followed by actual e-learning. And there's a digital content, and there is the online content, and the digitized, which is more costly. So the essence of the matter is to appropriately harness ICT in education in order to really get the effect. Technology is a mere tool. Even I challenge some people without technology, I can challenge anybody to rear a knowledge economy generation with such an open mind and skills that if you release them, they'll probably find their own technologies or create their own technology. So technology is a tool, and how it is used is very, very important. I think if I understood right, it touches upon corruption, which
Hmm.
is the distribution of wealth. Sadly, yes, those those with a lot of money tend to get more opportunities. But then again, if public school systems uh, apply the basics of ICT based knowledge economy and entrepreneurship skills, teachers trainings models, between brackets, 21st century skills, upper order skills. Believe you me, it is sufficient to orient these people in the right direction. Mind you, so many innovative ideas came from high school children who became really rich overnight because of their good ideas and manifestations. Sadly, yes, there is abuse of power, imbalance of power, but that is why we go back to the knowledge based economy that is based on a sound socio-economic regime that has transparency, accountability, rule of law. But once again, if public schools and government spend half as much as they're spending now, but spend it in a better way, this can really change the fortune of all the nation's children. So they will be competitors with whoever is more privileged. Actually, sometimes unprivileged people, they are more committed because they are deprived and they want to absorb the knowledge more than others. But it's not necessarily true, of course. So,
Hmm.
of course, I mean, that's why I keep on repeating the word ethics. If we bring our new generations on ethics, they will become leaders one day and they will hopefully guide our countries and futures in a better way. Yeah, when the idea of entrepreneurship started to gain popularity, Mr. Barack Obama personally invited us to a presidential summit on entrepreneurship. So I was one of the delegates. And of course, I was a speaker at one of the sessions. And entrepreneurship, as people ask me, what is it? It's all about passion and perseverance. You find something you feel so strongly about and you really follow it. No matter how many times you fall, you just pick up yourself up and you go on. I think this is one of the most common traits among entrepreneurship. And also, it's going where no one ventured before, making a huge, seemingly impossible mission, like that woman and the electricity in her village. In this case, my advice to the entrepreneur is to advocate for sound national policies. Particularly, I mean, I have a lot of analysis about gaps across the four legs of the table, call it that, if you will. But I found out that some of the bottlenecks facing young men and women who want to venture into their new ideas and entrepreneurship initiatives, it's ease of opening new business. When my country shows me where I can get a venture fund, incubators, grace periods, exemption from taxes, all of that will put me in the right direction. And there's another bottleneck. It is the IP rights. We have all judicial systems in some of the countries that do not know how to deal with non-tangible issues, non-tangible assets, how intellectual property rights, ideas, rights of people. So we need to have very strong judicial systems that can truly understand ICT based and IP rights cases in order for them to advocate. We're going to have nationalization and commercialization of ideas that are going to, to bring millions and billions. And this is where you need to be protected. So ease of opening new business. I want an incubator, and I want venture fund. I want grace periods, and then I want a sound judicial system to protect me if somebody steals my ideas and my rights, or steals my idea and commercializes it and nationalizes it. So I think these are 2 points. But of course, when you do a gap analysis for the socioeconomic regime, education, ICT infrastructure, and the innovation cross-cutting issues, of course, you might find many things. But I think these mainly affect the entrepreneur. Absolutely. There are so many ways, and probably they will think of good ideas, but I can think of the official way and then official way. If you truly feel strongly about something, you might take it unofficially online through the social media and start talking about this idea, talking about it strongly. How many heroes have appeared online and suddenly everybody knows them because they have picked up an idea and they're persistently talking about it, and they are right, and they are charismatic, and they seem to have the right idea. So they start having followers. Think of Justin Bieber's. He was a singer online, and now he is a superstar because of the internet. Only in his way, he had a song to say, and he wanted to pass on his music. So the social media platforms gives this kind of opportunity to people. There is also another way. If I really feel strongly about something, I can initiate an association and group people of similar profession together and advocate officially by organizing these meetings with the parliament, making online sessions, making press releases, and of advocating for an idea. Sometimes the pressure in the street is so strong, the government has to listen. So, whatever it is your idea, you have to believe in it. You have to find a group of supporters, and you have to keep on at it up until you are able to do it. Unless you are fortunate to be in a position and a position of power to do something yourself, which I took advantage of when I was in charge and I got the opportunity to help a school in an abandoned village. I immediately said, enroll that school, you know. So I took whatever decisions I could because I happened to be in charge and a decision maker. But if I'm outside the system, an entrepreneur, I have to really understand what are the inhibitors, how can I get through and ask for what they want through these channels, social media or professional channels, or team up with syndicates and other unions. That's perfect. I'll take it into twofold. You asked me about two questions. The first is a country or an area that doesn't have technology. Actually, a few years ago, I was fortunate through a good friend of ours. She is with us on the board, Her Excellency Mrs. Atiya, one of the leading diplomatic people in Pakistan. There was an envoy from the Prime Minister of Pakistan. That was like 5 years ago, and she wanted to have a model of ICT based technology, and she wanted to train the teachers and the community. Now, I spent 4 months studying the infrastructure in Pakistan, and I found it out to be at that time a little bit weak, especially in those areas. And they didn't actually have technology. So I created a program that boosted upper order skills, creative thinking, creative, critical, analytical thinking, problem solving, employing research in your work, working collaboratively and distantly with groups, teamwork, etc., leadership, etc. And I created a program because my core competencies is national training. So I don't train 1,000 and 2,000. I train 200,000 students in one go. And then I scaled up to 2 million students in one go. So I operate huge operations. So and I do it at a very low cost. I have the model. It's cost effective, and I don't compromise quality, and I can reach a lot of people. And just like I said, even without technology, you can boost the upper order skills of the brain and release them. And chances are they will create and find their own technologies and harness their own resources. The second part I did mention, I was lucky to have been in a position of power, but then so many people aren't. And that is why you find sometimes young men and women online who feel so strongly about a case. I mean, look at Baden, the poor child that was bullied. They raised 700,000 US dollars for him to go to Disneyland and to support other things. He is just a kid, and his mother she expressed what went on, and the social media picked it up, and she didn't have that power or that position. So that's an example of a person who had an issue and raised the issue of bullying against dwarfism. And poor Baden was really suffering. He wanted to take his own life. I'm sure you saw it. And then they raised 700,000 US dollars, and he got superstars talking to him and the like. And then you've got that thing in between. Like I said, you can team up with a syndicate. Like for now, there's always a professional association for the environment, one for the animals, one for human rights, or you can have your own and start to advocate and get funding and make awareness, raise awareness, and make visits with the parliament and the cabinet up until you are heard. These can be very, very powerful. I'll give you a very short, fast example. We have an amazing NGO in Jordan. It's called IDAMA. It is so well versed in renewable energy that when the government made a law has to do with electricity, simply this association, which is built up of private sector intelligent people, they were able to look at the law and draw the attention to the government in a joint session that this law will have this impact and it will have an adverse effect, etc. So this group is so powerful that actually the government start listening to them and involving them, even though a lot of developing countries' governments don't like to listen to the people. They just do the law, and then after they issue it, come what may. So these associations, and actually it became a point that my advice to any country that is suffering on the level of the socio-economic regime, opt for a professional association for every single sector to be strong advocates representing all those in that sector and talk strongly to the government. Wait a minute, if you do this, you're going to demolish the chances of tourism, or you're going to do this and that. So whatever it is, it's a goodwill, a passion, perseverance, and finding the right channel. Well, actually, I'm going to end it with something very, very simple. But just like every human being on this earth, I always wonder, what kind of world do I want to leave to my children, and what kind of children do I want to leave to the world? And believe you me, it is so simple. If we give them health of mind, education, that is, and a healthy body, physical and psychological health, good natural food and health style, like a lifestyle, and then in clean environment. And with this, I mean a good environment, not just physically, but the good legislations and the physical Mother Earth environment. So if I can leave my child that is equipped with education and knowledge, healthy lifestyle, and lives in a clean environment, chances are they will create a better future. So I just hope that the world will focus on a clean mind, clean body, clean environment, and then everything else will follow suit, and namely the fortunes that everybody is so eager to have.